So good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for making time to join us at this month's Masterclass, which I'm thrilled is about TAM, and we'll get to that in a second. But just so we're clear what these Masterclasses are, they're offered by our members. The idea being there's no sales materials. This is not a situation where you have to sit through and listen to sales. This is really about sharing knowledge and about expanding knowledge across the industry. The sessions are recorded, as we've just talked about, which means that you can share it with your colleagues if they were not able to join, if you found that they would find this useful. Obviously, huge changes within the measurement framework within KSA in particular, which Huda will talk us through in a second. So very excited for this particular session. There are other sessions that we've recorded on other topics, which you can have a look at if you make a note of this QR code. Or have a look at our website or the YouTube channel. You can see both the masterclass schedules, so future schedules. After the summer, there'll be a couple more. Or you can go back and watch. I think we've got nearly 15 different topics covered in this masterclass series so far. So very easy way of getting knowledge from some of the top voices within our industry. So with that, I want to hand over to Huda from Archers, who's kindly given us up to an hour of her time to share what's happening within TAMs, within TV and video measurement within the Saudi marketplace. Thanks very much, Huda.
Yeah, thank you, Ian, and thank you, everyone attending this session. As Ian said, this is not a sales pitch. Definitely, I don't own the audience measurement. I actually consult on projects like that, and it's an area I'm very, very passionate about. I'm not sure, how familiar you are or knowledgeable you are about TAM, but however, we will go through it, and towards the end, if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer. So basically, what we're gonna tap into. Sorry, let me just close my window. What I'm gonna tap into is, talk about total audience measurement systems. Previously, when we used to say TAM, it used to mean TV audience measurement. But as with the more and more media coming into play, with more platforms coming into play, we're not talking about TV any longer. We're moving into what is called total audience measurement that covers all platforms, all screens. And this is what I will tap into today. We will have a special reference to the KSA TAM, just as providing a local case study, since KSA in our region is the only market so far that has technology-based solution when it comes to audience measurement, particularly audience measurement on the TV set, with plans to move to multi-screen. We'll come into that later. Basically, what we're going to cover is the evolution of TAM technology. What are the strengths, the advantages of TAM data compared to the traditional data when we used to work on diary and day after recall, leveraging TAM data for ad sales content strategy. And we will share with you, what are the current and the future trends when it comes to audience measurements and the innovations that are happening in this ecosystem. So I'm sure, if not all of you, the majority of you are aware of, the fragmentation that is happening with the advancement of all the, media platforms. It's not only about TV or radio or what we call conventional media any longer. And when we talk about platforms, it's not about the platform itself, it's also about the content across platform. And as more and more options are available for consumers and for audiences, fragmentation becomes really, really the dictating factor of, where consumers are, how do they consume, when do they consume, and what do they consume on a certain platform versus another platform. And not only that, on one screen versus another screen. And then entailed the need for trying to see how we can get to an unduplicated reach and frequency across platforms, that we can have an optimized and efficient planning. And when we say planning, it's not only media planning, it's also content strategy, especially for broadcasters that have more than one platform where they show their content, and even for the digital publishers. And then the advertisers come into play and saying, okay, now I know my audience is everywhere. How do I make sure that I am not reaching the same person across several platforms and paying 3 times for that person when I can pay only $1 instead of $3? And that's the talk across the globe. It's not only in our market, it's everywhere. How can we have an accurate measurement of unduplicated reach and frequency? It's becoming more and more urgent. And still, these are considered quote unquote conventional metrics. We now, have markets, and even in our region as well, talking about attention being a new metric and how we can measure it and how it can become a trading metric as well. With all these, this dictates really a evolution, and sometimes I call it even a revolution in audience measurement technology and solutions. Way back, years and years back, not in our region, across other countries, okay, the measurement started with pre 1987, I would say, or 1978, if I'm not mistaken. We were the markets used depend on either diary or what we call day after recall phone interviews, where audiences will fill in a diary to say, what did I watch today? What time did I watch it? And that becomes the currency of the market and the data that is used for trading and for planning. And then CATI came into play. And in our region, up till, for example, in KSA, up till 2022, that was the main solution that was used for audience measurement. In other Gulf countries, in other Arab countries, it's still the case that we rely on CATI for audience measurement. But that has a lot of limitation as a methodology. And with these advancements and the evolution in media landscape, asking people, what did you watch yesterday on TV, or what did you watch on YouTube, or what time did you watch YouTube, for example, it becomes really something that doesn't necessarily lead to a reliable and accurate representation of audience behavior across platforms. And then this is when markets started looking for other advanced solutions that could be technology based. And the first one that came into play was what we call people meter. Today, where we stand, it's a hybrid solution. It really entails having people meter, first party data, RPD data, and even we talk about now clean data rooms or data clean rooms, whatever we call it, so that we can have a holistic view of a day in the life of a consumer or of an audience with media. And that's what I'll be covering in this presentation. So there are different TAM solutions. You will never find in any market a solution that is replicate across all other markets. There could be some commonalities, but there is always, customized solutions. Each market, depending on the industry requirements and also the industry alignment, the industry collaboration, that would lead to a certain solution that is not necessarily feasible to be replicated in other markets. There are some foundations that remain the same across all markets. But as we go through and I give you examples of advanced markets, you will see that you will not find all markets looking the same and using the same solutions. Panel-based systems are really the main common, so to speak, solution that is used across majority of markets, especially markets that can afford investing in panel-based solutions. And that has several technologies that can be used. One of them is what we call people meter, where you have a household panel. You have a device that we call the people meter. It's installed to the TV set in the household, to every TV set that is working in a certain household, and it passively collects what the individuals are watching on that TV set, right? And there is a remote control where every individual in the household is assigned a number, and every time they are watching something, they have to press that number, which goes to the back-end system of the vendor that says this demographic profile is watching this content at this time, etc. So we don't rely any longer with this technology on people telling us what they're watching or what they're consuming. It's a passive measurement. The only active part in it is that asking individuals to actually press the button. There is also, and this is called fixed people meter households. We also have what we call portable people meter. Portable people meter, it started, sometime GFK had that watch where it recruits a panel of individuals and asks them to wear that watch, and that watch tracks what people watch on the TV at that time. Now, the portable people meter has advanced as well. It's not necessarily a watch only, it's any portable device that you can carry on with you, and it captures the advantage of the portable meter is that it captures out of home and in home consumption. We also have passive mobile app solutions where you recruit a panel of individuals, you ask them to install a silent app on their mobile, and this app captures what people consume on their personal devices. Of course, it abide by a lot of privacy related rules. It's in the companies that have or provide the solution are GDPR compliant, and it is a bit challenging actually to get people to accept to this solution, but it's been used in other markets. It's been successful. We piloted it even in KSA as a solution to consider for cross-media measurement. Now, with all these panel-based solutions, because you cannot, it's very costly, it's very challenging to manage a big panels, and definitely you cannot cover too many geographical areas, especially in big countries. Panel-based solutions in a fragmented media landscape it cannot accommodate all this fragmentation. If you only have a panel, for example, of 9,000 individuals, this could be excellent for TV measurement, but when it comes to bring in, say, the digital platforms and the OTT platforms and the gaming platforms, etc., this is where you need a bigger, much bigger panel to make up for the for this fragmentation. However, having big panels is really costly to an extent. Even the most advanced markets will not be able to afford paying for it. So other solutions came into play, which is particularly related to what we call big data. In other words, getting other data sources into play, accommodating them with the panel-based data so that you can have a much wider representation of audiences across the entire population in a market. I'll dwell into details later in the presentation. And then there are other solutions such as, I'm not sure if you've heard of, for example, Samba TV, where they have something called, automatic content recognition. So Samba TV, for example, had, a deal with LG and with Samsung where they put a kind of an SDK, let's say, into their, in the TV set itself. And then, they are able to track what a household is consuming. They don't have demographics. They're not recruiting the panel, but they are able to see what this household is watching on the TV set. And it gives real-time consumption data. And the advantage of this kind of solution, it can also give the opportunity for what we call addressable TV and pushing tailored advertising to different households depending on what they're watching. So this is really very, very brief summary of what is out there. We can go for hours talking about the details of each one of them. The strength and the advantage of TAM data is it gives you granular level insights. Data is collected on second by second. It's reported in many markets minute by minute. However, for some markets who would like to consider second by second, it's feasible. It's just that, again, it requires a lot of storage space, and in a way, in markets that are advanced, they can probably move from minute by minute reporting to second by second reporting. But in our area, for example, in KSA, we just moved from 15 minutes to minute reporting. That's one. Two, it gives really detailed behavioral patterns and a contextual analysis of consumer behavior. So we are able not only to capture, or these solutions are not only able to capture live viewership, for example, they also capture time shift viewership. So for example, if a program went on a certain channel, let's say at 10 a.m. today, someone decided to watch it at 10 a.m., but I, for example, decide to record it and then watch it later. That's called time shift viewing. Someone else decided to go on catch up on an OTT platform that offers it as a catch up and decide to watch it the next day. That's called time shift viewing. So now you're capturing, not only live viewership, but even later viewership. What does that mean? It means more audiences for, let's say, the broadcasters, but also it means more viewers for the advertisers as well. Previously, when this was not available, we would say a campaign reached 10 people when in fact it could have reached 15 people. So time shift gives that, the granular and the holistic reach of a certain campaign, for example. When we used to work with the conventional methodologies, even the shape of the day, for example, on video consumption use, and particularly on TV, it used to be like a bell curve, as if all people watch, TV, for example, only during that specific time of the day. And simply because we were relying on recall, on people's memory, etc. But then when with these solutions, we find that there are audiences across different day parts, depending on their demographic profile, on their lifestyle, and so on. And that made a lot of changes to how media planners plan, even how content providers schedule their content. It's not any longer that all content has to be scheduled to what is called 4 hours a day because 70% of the audiences are there. In fact, you will find that what used to be 70% audience in a conventional methodology is, in certain markets, it doesn't exceed 30%, and you see viewership spread across the day. And even, the usage of streaming platforms or even of other digital platforms. We are able, for example, to assess audience retention, co-viewership. In the absence of household panels, for example, we will not be able to say how many people are watching together a certain content. And what is the implication of that? Is because today, as an advertiser, let's say, I have a core target and a secondary target consumer. When we used to work with the conventional methodologies, we were only able to say, okay, I only know my core target, what they're watching. Right now, I can say, while I am planning to reach my core target, but I also know that my secondary target is watching at the same time, this program with my core target. So it gives you efficiency in planning. So this co-viewership is a metric that these kind of solutions, allows us to do. And in our part of the world, for example, the perception for many, many, many years was that the first ad in the break is the most, and therefore, the majority of the advertisers would want to go and watch and place their ads in the first spot and the last spot. These solutions came into play, and we found that no, there is nothing set in stone, and there is no rule about the first and the last ad being the most effective ads in a break. It depends on the genre, it depends on the behavior, the consumer or the audience demographic profile, it depends on the time of the day. Sometimes we find that the second ad or the middle ad position in the break are more effective than the first and the last. Even it can be more effective vis-a-vis the metric. If I'm looking at reach versus, let's say, GRP or impressions, we will find, for example, that sometimes the first ad is good when it comes to reach, but not on GRP. Again, this is literally what we're trying to say here, is that these solutions gives us more accurate, insights that helps us to have a better and more efficient and effective planning. Of course, as we go into having a large panel size, it allows us for more granular audience analysis. We are able to look at let's say, Saudi females who are 15 to 19 years old and who are, of a social class A. We are still able to have a decent sample size to draw, strong conclusions from and plan accordingly. And the last thing, the most important thing about, the advantages of TAM data is that we are now with all these advanced solutions, we're able to look at cross-platform content analysis and campaign content performance and campaign performance. How do we leverage TAM data for ad sales? I spoke earlier about, the spot level ad performance, about whether we have the ad on, the first spot, the last spot, or even within a 1 hour, let's say, content. Is it the first break that is more effective, or the second break, or the third break? Because we're collecting the data second by second, because we're reporting minute by minute. In some markets, they could report even the campaign data second by second. We're able now to have a more efficient ad placement. Having engagement metrics like completion rate, incremental reach, duplicated reach, exclusive reach would also help the planners and even the buyers as well, the sellers and the buyers, to plan efficiently. For example, if today I have a channel that has 30% reach, I'm saying anything, all right? But the cost of the ad is really very expensive. I can take the audience that is on that my target audience that is on that channel and see what other channels they're watching or what other platforms they're watching that could give me the same reach but with a lesser cost. I'm still reaching the audience. I'm still getting what I want in terms of campaign reach. It's just like, rather than paying $200, for example, I'm paying probably $150. So this kind of data gives you these granular metrics that will allow us for better budget optimization and plan optimization. And the other thing is, because we are now using this solution, it provides us with, if not real-time data, at least data that we receive maximum the next day. Which means when I have a campaign that is 2 weeks or 3 weeks long, I am able to optimize my campaign, the next day, the 3 days later, because I am able to track my campaign performance on a daily basis. And if I have a target of, I'm saying anything, 1 million impressions, and I come and say, or 500 GRPs, and I'm 3 days or 4 days through my campaign, and I realize it doesn't seem like I'm gonna hit my impressions by the end of the campaign. This data, because it comes in timely manner, I'm able to adjust my media mix, or even if it's only on TV, my channel mix, my program mix, and so on. When it comes, so that's on the planning, the advertising side, but definitely all the stakeholders in this ecosystem benefit from TAM data. If we talk about content strategy, and if I give the example, of broadcasters who have not only the satellite, don't offer their content only via satellite and linear, but also via streaming platforms, for example, or even on social media platforms. They are able to track the performance of their content across these platforms, and they are able to know, for example, maybe movies don't work on linear any longer. I realize every time I have my movie on across these platforms, it does better on streaming. So why do I need to pay movie rights for screens across screens when it's only getting me my return on investment on the streaming platform? So that allows for proper content distribution strategy. On linear itself, for example, the data allows us to say, the scheduling of this content at this particular time is not working. I need to move it to another time. Why? because I'm able to see the audience migration. I'm able to see, when people leave this channel, to which channel do they go, what content they watch, because I am tracking the same person every day. So I'm able to, accompany them through their viewership journey, and that will give me a better indication of not only what they're watching at this particular in time, but when they leave, where do they go? Do they turn off the TV? Do they move to a competitor channel, or do they go to another program? And when you have a broadcaster with a group of channels, it also allows them for effective cross-promotional strategy as well. So where they can, cross-promote their content across their channels. If, for example, I am watching, channel X and channel Y, why do you want to, put a promotion for a certain program to target me on channel Z when I am not there at all? Previously, it was difficult to track the same person because it was not panel based. It was only, different people, different days. But now it's the same people being tracked. The case study is the KSA TAM, and we call it a regional game changer. It's simply because it is the first market in the region, particularly in the Gulf. Lebanon had the people meter before, and Morocco were the only two Arab countries that have the people meter. But in the Gulf region, KSA is the first market to get the people meter up and running and adopted by the entire ecosystem and is used as a currency in the market. So the KSA TAM is currently in its phase 1, and it basically measures video consumption on the TV set in home, which means it covers both satellite and streaming platforms on the TV set. Okay, it measures up to 150 channels. It monitors 50 TV channels, which means they report program and ad level data on these 50 channels. It's a panel of 2,100 households reporting daily on average, and on an average 9,000 individuals every day. These 9,000 individuals represent 16.8 million marketable individuals who are 4 years and above, covering cities that are 80,000 population and above. Of course, what KSA TAM did, the company that owns and runs this project, all these that I just covered were aligned with the industry. There is a technical committee that represents media agencies, broadcasters, and advertisers, that together they come with MRC, and they agree on, okay, should we cover all population or only marketable population? Should we cover all channels when only probably 30 channels have 90% share of audience? And which channels should be monitored and not monitored, so that we make sure that this project is addressing the industry needs. And the technology that is used is a nano people meter and a streaming meter. The nano people meter captures all the viewership that happens on satellite, and the streaming meter captures the viewership that happens on the streaming platforms. Now, on the streaming platforms, up till 7 days time shift, okay, the currency reports content level data for the TV channels. What does that mean? It means that if a content goes on a channel at 8 p.m. and we continue monitoring it for 7 days from going live on that TV channel, as and report it back to the TV channel and report it on what platform it's being viewed. Now, if someone comes and watches on day 8, it's not reported any longer on content level. In other markets, time shift can go up to 28 days, that they keep tracking the same content being watched after going live on TV for 28 days. And then on day 29, they don't report on content level any longer. Now, the panel is representative of the marketable population. It follows the GA stat census, so to make sure that it really it represents by demographic breakdown, by geographic distribution, and so on. The data is reported the next day, every day, for the day before, and it reports on a minute-by-minute basis. Like similar solutions in other markets, it provides advanced metrics. So for those who have worked with the TV data when we used to have a day after recall in KSA, and those who are still working with it in other markets like UAE or other GCC markets. There were basically a limited number of metrics that we could plan and trade on. With these solutions, the list of metrics can go up to 70. I'll just share a few examples here. Exclusive versus duplicated reach, for example. It tracks exclusive audience on one channel versus other channels, exclusive audience on one program versus other program, exclusive audience by day parts. Some people only watch TV, for example, 10 to 11 p.m. and they don't watch any other day. And if that target is, if that audience or profile of an audience is a core target for a certain advertiser, then they need to know that they're only watching at this particular time, and therefore they have to, have a campaign or an ad addressing them at that particular time. Duplicate reach is literally the same person who's watching at this time or this channel. What other time of the day do they watch, and what other channels do they watch? And duplicate reach also is important for building frequency as well. Especially if, let's say, the objective of your campaign is call to action, and therefore your metric of frequency becomes very important. Incremental reach is, again, we all talk about reach curve in advertising. Incremental reach helps us get that, because we're coming and saying, okay, so we start with channel X, and we get on channel X 30% reach, and my target is 80% reach or 60% reach. I keep moving and saying, okay, the other channel, how much incremental reach it's going to give me, and so on. And at what point I go saturate, even if I add 10 other channels, I'm not going to get any single 1% reach on top of it. And therefore, there is no need to include more in my channel mix. The same thing when it comes to TAM, when it covers other platforms, for example. If, let's say, I want to have TV and at the same time digital platforms, I'm going to come and say, should I start with digital or do I start with TV? Either way, incremental reach will say, okay, how much am I getting on TV and how much the digital platforms are going to get me, or the other way around. Gain and loss, this is related to, and this is particularly used by the broadcasters to come and say for certain channels during certain day parts or for certain programs, how many audiences I'm gaining and how many audiences I lose when this program is done. Okay, to say, okay, and if I lose this program, these audiences, to which other program or other channels are they going? And they will be able to know that if someone is watching a golf series, and the minute this golf series episode is done, and the channel lost them, they go and find that, oh, they went to another channel that is showing another golf series, for example. They would know over time that apparently there is this kind of target profile of audiences that are heavy viewers of golf series, and therefore maybe I should have horizontally across my channels several golf series at a certain period of time. So this is what gain and loss helps us do. Spot position, I also, I already spoke about it. Completion rate is also important, especially for broadcasters, and even for advertisers. Completion rate is if a certain content duration or a certain program is, I'm saying anything, 30 minutes long, and I find 100 people watching it, but they're only watching 20% of it, the completion rate is 20%. It means they only watch 20% of the 30 minutes. The higher the completion rate, the more it means that the content has a strong hook, that once people tune into that content, they stay on that content for a long time. And therefore, as a content provider, I know that this type of content is really appealing, and therefore I need to produce more or acquire more of it. From a campaign perspective, from a campaign planning perspective, when you are on content that has higher completion rate, it means there is a higher chance that your advertising, your ad is going to be seen. That's the importance of this kind of metric. And of course, these metrics, we were not able to have them before. Frequency, we used to have frequency before, but now because we're tracking the same people, it's a more accurate measurement of frequency. Viewer graphics is also interesting. You are not only able to look now, and this is something that has been in the digital platforms, for those who work with, digital publishers or plan on digital, you're able to see, for example, travel lovers, gifting lovers, do-it-yourself lovers, etc. With viewer graphics on the KSA TAM, we're like similar solutions across other markets, we're able to create, for example, drama lovers, movie lovers. So let's say a brand wants to own the movie genre and they only want to advertise on the movie genre. They can create a viewer graphic of the movie lovers and be able to own and plan against them accordingly. This is what an example of, exclusive versus duplicated reach. So here, for example, you have channel 1 has 30.7% reach, and then you have, channel 2 has 10% reach between channel 1 and channel 2. This is a duplicate. 8.2% watch channel 3 and channel 1, 8.3% watch channel 4 and channel 1. So this way you would know that channel 1 has this high reach, but channel 1 could be a very, very premium channel that not all advertisers can afford being there. So what they would do, they would go and say, okay, maybe I go to channel 2, which is less premium, I am able to afford it, and I can take this 10.3 audience that I'm trying to reach on channel 2, and if I'm only going to be on 2 channels, then the remaining 20% I'll go and get them from channel 1. Instead of paying the full premium for the 30.7% reach, I'll pay partially for that. And I pay, so this is all about budget optimization and plan optimization. And it's a way of saying, okay, if I am going after frequency, then what are the other channels that are high on duplicate with the starting channel in my planning campaign that I can also advertise on. And of course, the example here is given on channels, but it also can be done on program level and on content level. On day part level. This is the spot position, for example. Again, this is just showing an example from a certain period in time from the KSA TAM, telling you that it's not only the first ad break that is necessarily giving you high GRP. It could be the middle position. If I change GRP, for example, to reach, it may be, for example, the first and the last one will give you high reach. And that could be simply explained by audience behavior. Audience, the minute the program starts, you will have more people coming in, let's say, and then staying. But on the in the middle, for example, people come in and go out, etc. It depends really on the behavior. It depends on the genre. There are a lot of factors that play a key role in when the first ad, the first position ad is more effective than the others, and vice versa. So this is giving you just an example of what the KSA TAM has been giving us till now. Of course, KSA TAM are moving into phase 2 now, where they're planning to measure cross multi-screens. In other words, looking at consumption not only of linear and streaming platforms on the TV set in home, but on personal devices as well. And this way you will be able to have, for example, the reach of YouTube, for example, not only on the TV set, but across all screens. And the same for the TV channels and for all other platforms. And the aim actually is to get to a single source data where we are actually able to get what we call deduplicated reach and frequency. So now I'm able to know, once this is launched, like in other markets, I'm able to know, for example, what is my total unduplicated reach across all my media mix, so that I don't necessarily reach the same person several times when I only want to reach them one time, or pay for reaching them too many times when I can only I know that they are the same person watching here and here and here, and so why do I need to pay double my budget when I can only pay once? In other markets, the advanced markets, and this is only a few markets that I'm sharing here. This is taken from the ECTA report 2025, and for those who are really interested in audience measurement, I strongly recommend that you read this report. It's a very comprehensive report, and it casts the light on the different solutions out there across markets, what are the initiatives and the future plans that are happening on audience measurement. The reason I'm showing you this here as an example is to tell you, for example, different markets use different data sources. For example, if you look here in Denmark, they will use panel-based data, then the router meter and census data, which means they take the census data from streaming platforms, they integrate it in the panel data so that they can add the demographic profile to the digital platform data. So rather than only having first-party data from the streaming platforms, let's say, you can also have third-party data now, and you cast the demographic on top of that. So it's not only about the reach for this program on, let's say, I'm just giving the example here, Shahid is 1 million people, and I don't know the profile of these 1 million people. Now, with integrating the census level data with the panel data, you move from device reporting on digital to actually individual reporting, because what happens is the data is calibrated and the panel is used as the main source of truth, particularly for the demographics. And now you will have a more holistic and comprehensive and representative audience behavior measurement. In, for example, Austria, they use panel, they use the census data from the digital, and they use return path data from the TV set-top boxes. For example, they take, let's say in our part of the world, they will take OSN data and they will take BN data, they integrate it into the panel data alongside OSN plus Shahid data, integrate them all together. And now they are able to measure, for example, TV viewership across screens, across platforms. If they were to have everything based on a panel, they will need, as I said earlier, probably a 20 to 30,000 individuals to be able to make up for that fragmentation. And still, it may not necessarily lead to a full reliable solution. That's why many markets across the globe are moving into getting first-party data integrated into panel data to be able to get a comprehensive cross-platform, cross-screen, and deduplication measures. Netherlands, for example, is one of the most advanced markets. So it's not only about integrating data sources, and rather than reporting devices, they report actually people watching. What now we're seeing a trend across markets like Netherlands and even Sweden, for example, they use what we call virtual panel. So it's like they take 20,000, 30,000, 5,000, whatever the panel size of the individuals are, real people, and I use the word, they clone them into a virtual panel so that they can have a bigger panel size, and then they report, they of course bring in the census data. With all these, they combine and they report the data to the market. Now, of course, this requires a lot of collaboration. First of all, you need the consensus of the first-party data providers to provide you with their data. Then you need the market to agree to the methodology, align with it. In certain markets, they cannot do it because there was no industry, there were no collaboration, and at the same time, there was no industry alignment. But Netherlands has been really one of the most advanced markets to get all the pieces together, all the stakeholders together. And now they're even moving into not only integrating video data, but also getting the print data, the out-of-home data from the different panels, and augmenting, imputating, and having a single source data across all the media mix. And it's a dream that we are hoping that we will achieve one day in our region, at least in KSA, since this is the market that has already started with an advanced solution. I'm sure you've all heard I'm not going to talk about AI because everybody talks about AI and how AI is leveraged across all industries, not only in the media industry. But it is now getting, being part of how we can use AI, for example, to leverage, to advance audience measurement, especially relying on machine learning. And then there is the data clean rooms. And the data clean rooms is, growing across markets where it's not only now getting audience data, into play. Also getting other sources of data like retail data, e-commerce data, and integrating them and having, a virtual environment where all these data sources come into play. Okay, by protecting the privacy of each data source. The data sources don't leave where they are being stored. It's just we create what we call a clean data room. There are tech providers that do that, and they hash the IDs from the different data sources. But I, as a user, I will be able to know this person that with this hash ID seems to be the same person with the same demographic profile across these data sources, and I'm able now to track their journey from the time they watched a certain ad to the time they went, let's say, on an e-commerce platform and they bought. It's like a return path a path to purchase journey where and that plays a key role in proper attribution to attribution models. So I'm able now with these data clean rooms to know, for example, did this ad really drive my target consumer to go and purchase or go and search, whatever my campaign objective was, rather than just bringing data sources and trying to put them in with the data science and working on a certain algorithm and then coming and saying you were attributing 10% of the campaign performance to this channel versus this medium versus this platform, etc. With these now, I'm able to have even a more accurate path to purchase indications. Now, I always use the word more accurate. I never say 100% accurate, because at the end of the day, there's always, like any measurement, like any research, there is always a margin of error that we work around. But as we advanced with, we develop these solutions, what we're trying to do is we're trying to get to a more accurate representation of the actual audience behavior and consumer behavior. There are international cross-media initiatives that are happening. For example, the WFA, the World Federal Advertisers, what they've done, and this has been, they started this initiative more than 3 years back in UK and in the US. What they tried to do is put a framework for audience measurement that can become a global framework for cross-media measurement. They work, I'm not going to go into the technicalities, it's a bit complicated, but basically, again, they're putting a framework to say when you have a panel and a census level data and a return path data and any other data sources, what are the rules for integrating these data, for protecting the data privacy, and they worked on creating what we call a virtual ID for the panelists for individuals across these data sources that become like an ID for a certain individual, and how you can use this virtual ID to become like a person and plan against it. They're not an audience measurement company. They are putting the framework for advertisers, and several global stakeholders, including, for example, TikTok, Google, are part of this initiative. So my last slide is I want to end it by saying it is as the media continuously evolve, and with the rapid evolvement of media, it becomes very, very challenging, but very demanding of audience for those companies who provide audience measurement solutions to develop innovative solutions to cope and accommodate these developments in the media landscape and the fragmentation. And relying on conventional methods alone doesn't work any longer. However, there is no one solution set in stone. Some markets decide that this solution better fits them. Other markets decide another solution fits them. There are a lot of factors that play a role why we consider certain solution and not the other. For example, when in KSA we decided to use to run the POC on the multi-screen measurement, because we wanted to know, is this solution feasible? Would it work? Maybe the Saudis will not, the residents in Saudi Arabia will not accept it. Maybe it would lead to a lot of churn, and therefore we need to venture into another solution. So it's all about test, trial, what works, what doesn't work. But the key word that I always focus on is As long as there is collaboration among the different industry stakeholders, everything is possible.